I read a tweet from you a couple of days ago as we record saying that this fight, and I think you were referring to Aspinall, is, quote, let me pull this up, one of the biggest pressure spots in UFC history. Why do you put this in the big, huge pressure spot here for Aspinall?
Well, forget any pressure put upon him by his dear friend and my friend and broadcast partner, Michael Bisping, being suggested that Tom Aspinall is going to not only go down as the greatest British mixed martial arts athlete of all time, but truly one of the all-time greats. But his fan base has swelled exponentially because of the whole John Jones circus / exercise, right? Ciryl Gane has gotten a lot of opportunities. He's a credentialed heavyweight. He's an outstanding striker. Seemingly, there has been an appetite for improvement in the wrestling and grappling areas. But, Tom Aspinall is anointed. We went back, Kenny Florian and I did, for UFC Fight Pass this week and watched some of the early film, and even then you can just see shades of greatness. So I think there's always been pressure on Tom. But because he didn't get the Jon Jones fight, and because he's now the undisputed UFC heavyweight champion, never mind the fact that he's a 4-1 favorite, in this crazy sport, could you imagine, as we're all doing our podcasts and shows and talking about Tom Aspinall not holding serve as the favorite? It would be crazy, I think, in any other sport, right? 4-1 favorites don't lose very often in sports. So, yeah, there's a lot of pressure on Tommy, and I know he eats it like a fucking sandwich, but do you disagree? I mean, my gosh, man, there have been a ton of pressure spots, right? Khabib and Conor both in their rivalry, of course, and I think back to, like, the pressure Dustin was facing in the second Conor McGregor fight. I mean, there are a ton of pressure spots, right? Dustin Poirier could not afford to lose that second fight to Conor McGregor, but Tom Aspinall cannot afford to lose at UFC 321, to quote the great Renato Moicano. Well, so I'm an MMA fan, and I think in our conversation that comes across, right? Like, if you don't think over last week at some point I've called my twin brother, whom I talk to 8 times a day, and said, dude, could you imagine if Tom Aspinall fucking loses? Like, you're crazy. Of course that conversation has happened. I'm just a fan at my core. It would be insane. But anything can happen in mixed martial arts, and Ciryl Gane is more than anything. He has more than a puncher's chance. But it would be crazy to walk into that world. But in terms of how it would affect Tom, what are the goals here, right? Because he is going to realize financial freedom, right? This man is going to make a ton of money. Even if he, quote unquote, slips on a banana peel at UFC 321, I would expect him to go back and become the undisputed heavyweight champion again. I think he's that good. I'm much more aligned with Michael Bisping than not in terms of how great Tom Aspinall can be. That's why there's a lot of pressure, a lot of pressure to hold serve here. And, I think he has a great chance to do just that. We'll see.